skiing, the only sport where people spend thousands just to fall down in designer jackets. 1. Let's start with the guy who tried to outrun an avalanche on skis. He saw the roaring white wall behind him and thought, "I've been training for this my whole life." Spoiler, he had not. Turns out, gravity doesn't care about your GoPro footage. He survived, but the footage captured him shouting, "I'm faster than snow," right before the snow proved him wrong. It's like watching Darwin take attendance. 2. Then there's the woman who called ski patrol because her skis stopped working. They found her standing completely still on a flat section, arms crossed, demanding a refund because, and I quote, "These skis don't move unless the ground does." That's right, she'd discovered friction. Somewhere, Isaac Newton rolled over in his grave, probably faster than she moved down that slope. 3. One man decided ski lifts were for amateurs. Instead of sitting like a normal human, he tried to surf the lift by standing on his skis while holding the bar. Within 30 seconds, he achieved 2 firsts, inventing the uphill faceplant and becoming a legend in the resort's safety videos. He's now immortalized as a warning sign with the caption, "Don't be this guy." 4. And of course, the skier who brought his drone for cinematic shots, but forgot he was flying it while skiing downhill. He crashed into his own drone, tumbled into a fence, and then accused the resort of attacking him with technology. Honestly, that's the most 21st century ski injury possible. Imagine explaining that to your insurance company. "Yes, I was hit by my own robot." 5. A man in Aspen once tried to ski with his dog, literally holding the leash while bombing down a blue run. The result looked like a live-action cartoon titled Man vs. Momentum. The dog, thrilled by the chaos, took the lead and dragged him through 3 safety nets, a snow fence, and one very judgmental line of people waiting for the lift. When ski patrol caught up, the guy proudly said, "He's my emotional support husky." The officer replied, "Buddy, I think it's the other way around." 6. Somewhere in Utah, a group of friends decided to invent shot ski limbo, combining drinking and downhill physics, 2 forces that should never meet. They placed shots on an old ski, did a round, then tried to limbo under the same ski while still clipped in. 2 concussions, 1 lost tooth, and a viral TikTok later, they became local legends. The lodge bartender summed it up perfectly. They didn't need medical help, they needed supervision and juice boxes. 7. There was also the influencer who tried to film herself skiing backward for Instagram. Great idea, until she backed straight into the loading zone of the lift and got scooped up like a lost backpack. She rode halfway up the mountain dangling upside down, yelling, "I'm fine, it's content." Her video got 2.4 million views. The resort's official account commented, "Please never visit again." 8. In Vermont, a man took a prey ski a little too literally and brought his margarita onto the slopes. He told friends he'd just sip and glide. Witnesses report he made it exactly 30 feet before physics reclaimed its throne, launching tequila, lime, and dignity across the powder. When patrol asked if he'd been drinking, he said, "Not anymore." That might be the most accurate thing he said all day. 9. And finally, for now, the genius who mistook the beginner hill for the parking lot shortcut. Instead of walking around, he clicked into his rental skis, shouted, "Watch this," and tried to cut across the slope, directly into the ski school class of 8-year-olds. He ended up buried in the snowbank like a cautionary snowman. The kids applauded, thinking it was part of the lesson. The instructor didn't correct them, because, honestly, it kind of was. 10. Somewhere in Colorado, a man decided snowboarding wasn't thrilling enough, so he tied a parachute to his back for extra speed. Yes, a parachute. Within seconds, the wind caught it, lifted him 5 feet off the ground, and sent him gliding majestically straight into a ski school sign that read, "Know your limits." He later claimed it wasn't an accident, it was wind-assisted skiing. Sure, buddy. And falling down is just earth-assisted stopping. 11. At a small resort in Idaho, one woman thought her boots were too tight, so she loosened them all the way and went up the lift anyway. Halfway down the hill, both skis took off without her, like 2 little freedom rockets, leaving her sliding barefoot through the snow, screaming, "Stop them! They're new!" The lost skis were later found perfectly parallel at the bottom of the slope, as if even the equipment had decided to quit her. 12. There's a guy in Montana who tried to impress his date by skiing shirtless in 5-degree weather. "The cold doesn't bother me," he said before his chest turned the color of a raw steak. He lasted 1 run, made it halfway down, and had to be wrapped in a thermal blanket like a human burrito. His date reportedly told Ski Patrol he wanted to show off his abs. Now he can show off frostbite. 13. A father in Tahoe once decided to teach his kid to ski by example, by bombing down a black diamond run without checking if his kid followed. Spoiler, the kid stayed at the top, making snow angels. Dad, however, made history as the first person to yell, "This is educational," while cartwheeling past 3 moguls and 1 confused moose. At the bottom, he said, at least he saw how not to do it. Father of the Year energy. 14. You'd think ski instructors have seen it all, until one tourist tried to tip his with a handful of snow. When told that's not how tipping works, the man said, "It's the mountain's currency." The instructor deadpanned, "Great, I'll put that toward rent." Honestly, the guy wasn't wrong. If stupidity had value, that snowball would have been pure gold. 15. And then there's the legend of the man who thought cross-country skiing meant skiing across the country. He packed snacks, wore aviator sunglasses, and told everyone he'd see them on the East Coast. He made it about 3 miles, called for a rescue, and complained that America needs more downhill. The rescuers reportedly found him sitting on his skis like a broken sled, eating trail mix and blaming Google Maps. 16. There's a man in Switzerland who managed to set a world record for most overconfident tourist. He wore jeans, leather gloves, and a cowboy hat, because snow is just frozen dirt. He didn't rent skis from the shop. He borrowed a child's snowboard because shorter means faster. Within seconds, he was proven correct. Too correct. He rocketed down the slope like a human cannonball, screaming "Yee-haw!" before vanishing into a snowbank so deep it had its own zip code. When rescuers dug him out, all they saw was the hat sticking out. His only comment? It needed more traction. Somewhere, gravity laughed itself to death. 17. A bachelor party in Utah decided to ski in matching tuxedos for style points. Unfortunately, polyester suits aren't exactly aerodynamic, and by the time they reached the lift, they looked like a conga line of deflated balloons. One guy lost his bow tie mid-jump and demanded a search party because it was his grandmother's. Another managed to spill champagne on his goggles and skied blind for 30 seconds, claiming he was navigating by vibe. They all ended the day in the lodge, nursing bruised egos and explaining to strangers that, yes, they were professionals, just not in skiing or decision-making. 18. Then there was the guy who mistook a snowmaking machine for an automatic selfie station. He stood in front of it, smiled, and hit the start button, which unleashed a 40 mph blizzard of freezing mist and ice chunks directly into his face. When Ski Patrol asked what happened, he said, "It attacked me." The footage, which later hit YouTube, shows him spinning in confusion, covered in frost, yelling, "Delete that picture." Nature, it seems, is the ultimate photo editor. 19. A woman in Aspen once complained to resort management that the mountain was too steep. She wanted them to make it flatter because she'd paid for a relaxing skiing experience. The manager, a man who's clearly seen too much, simply replied, "Ma'am, that's called Minnesota." She stormed off shouting about false advertising, while everyone else quietly agreed she'd discovered a new level of entitlement, somewhere between refund hunter and person who yells at gravity. 20. A local legend in Colorado involves a man who accidentally skied into his own parked car. He was trying to show off to friends, saying, "I can stop on a dime." Unfortunately, he stopped on a Subaru. Witnesses said he hit the hood, rolled across the windshield, and landed in the passenger seat with the grace of a startled raccoon. He sat there for a moment, adjusted his helmet, and said, "See? Perfect dismount." To this day, the car still has a dent shaped like a man learning consequences. 21. Somewhere in Lake Tahoe, a couple tried to film a romantic ski proposal. The man got down on one knee at the top of a slope, ring in hand, but forgot that skis are basically greased rails of betrayal. He started sliding backward mid-proposal, yelling, "I still love you," as gravity stole both his dignity and his GoPro. The ring mercifully survived, found by a kid hours later who turned it in to Lost and Found. The couple did get engaged, but the bride reportedly made one request: no more downhill commitments. 22. And finally, there's the snowboarder who decided to bring his pet parrot for company. He perched the bird on his shoulder, claiming, "It loves fresh air." Halfway down the run, the parrot took flight, circled the lift, and landed on someone else's helmet. For hours, the mountain echoed with squawks of "woo-hoo" and "send it," phrases the bird had learned from its owner's previous wipeouts. Eventually, Ski Patrol had to issue a radio call. "We have a talking bird on chair 3, possibly giving bad advice." The man found it later in the bar, sitting on a stool, eating fries. Honestly, that parrot might have been the smartest one on the mountain. 23. There's a man in Canada whose contribution to skiing history can only be described as engineering gone rogue. He strapped leaf blowers to his back, called it the turbo skier, and announced he'd invented a way to go uphill without a lift. Onlookers were treated to the sight of a grown man being launched backward across the parking lot like a screaming snowball of regret. He stopped only because he had a snack shack and knocked over 12 cups of hot chocolate. When paramedics asked what he was trying to do, he said, "Prove physics wrong." Physics, still undefeated, accepted his surrender. 24. A woman in the French Alps went viral for suing a ski resort after falling over on a flat beginner slope. Her claim? The snow was too slippery. Her lawyer apparently kept a straight face through the entire trial, which should qualify him for sainthood. The judge dismissed the case in seconds, reminding her that snow's defining feature is slipperiness. Undeterred, she vowed to appeal, declaring she'd been ambushed by gravity. That's not a lawsuit. That's an autobiography waiting to happen. 25. In Colorado, a group of corporate team-building enthusiasts decided to combine skiing with trust exercises. The idea was that one person would close their eyes while the others guided them verbally down the slope. It went great for about 3 seconds before everyone started yelling different directions. Left, right, pizza, stop screaming! The blindfolded CEO eventually crashed into a fence and declared, "We've learned something important about leadership. Yes, specifically that your staff wants you to suffer." 26. Somewhere in Japan, a man thought he could outsmart ski lift prices by hiking up the mountain with his skis on his back. He made it 3 hours up before collapsing in the snow, gasping. This was a mistake. When rescuers finally found him, he asked if they could take him down the lift since he'd already paid in sweat. The lift operator told him, "Sir, the way down is free." You could see the betrayal in his frostbitten eyes. If stubbornness burned calories, this man would have melted the mountain. 27. One British tourist in Utah brought an entire grill onto the slope to cook hot dogs with mountain energy. He set it up halfway down a run, lit the coals, and immediately got tackled by Ski Patrol before he could start what looked like the world's first barbecue avalanche. His defense? "I thought this was America. You can cook anywhere." He wasn't technically wrong, but the sight of him flipping hot dogs on a double black diamond earned him a lifetime ban and, presumably, a sponsorship deal from Darwin. 28. In Austria, a group of college students invented a drinking game called Sip and Slip, where you take a shot every time someone falls. Within 20 minutes, they'd gone through an entire bottle and couldn't remember who was supposed to be skiing. By noon, Ski Patrol found them at the bottom of the hill sitting in the snow, singing Sweet Caroline to a snowman they'd declared team captain. When questioned, they said they were hydrating strategically. Medical staff confirmed it was the least hydrated group of humans on record. 29. One man in Norway decided to teach his cat how to ski. No, really. He put it in a tiny jacket, attached a harness, and claimed Mr. Whiskers loves the cold. The cat disagreed, violently. It clawed its way onto his face, resulting in the most chaotic 10 seconds of skiing ever recorded. A man screaming, skiing backward, while a furious feline rode him like a vengeful hat. When reporters later asked him what he'd learned, he replied, "Cats don't like winter sports." Groundbreaking research, sir. 30. And then there's the Florida retiree who took his RV to Colorado and bragged he'd teach those snowpunks a thing or two. He showed up wearing Hawaiian shorts, rental boots, and an unbuttoned floral shirt. Locals thought it was performance art, until he actually tried skiing. He didn't fall so much as orbit around his own momentum, eventually colliding with a snowbank and shouting, "I'm suing the mountain." Ski Patrol later said he refused the snowmobile ride back down, insisting, "I'm from Florida. I wrestle alligators." He didn't, but he did wrestle the cold, and the cold won by knockout. 31. In Switzerland, a businessman decided to take his conference call while skiing. Bluetooth headset in, spreadsheet on his phone, full speed down the slope. He was explaining quarterly growth when gravity decided to give him a performance review. Halfway through the call, listeners heard him say, "Hold on," followed by 18 seconds of wind, panic, and what experts believe was a tree branch interview. He showed up later at the lodge covered in snow, still wearing his headset, saying, "Sorry, bad reception." His co-workers reportedly gave him a standing ovation for surviving both capitalism and physics. 32. A newlywed couple in Canada thought it would be cute to take wedding photos while skiing in full formal wear. The bride in her gown, the groom in a tuxedo, both shouting, "It'll be cinematic." It was, if your definition of cinematic includes tumbling into a snowbank and losing half your marriage certificate to the wind. When they finally made it to the bottom, soaked and shivering, the photographer announced his camera battery had died. Their only surviving photo was a blurry shot of the groom face first in snow while the bride yelled, "I said slow down, not snow down." 33. There's a guy in Austria who became famous for trying to race the ski patrol snowmobile. He bet a friend he could beat the machine to the bottom. What followed looked like a live-action Darwin Awards entry. He actually did keep up for 5 glorious seconds before launching himself off a small ridge and landing in a pile of rental skis like a human game of pickup sticks. When asked why he did it, he said, "I just wanted to see what I was capable of." Turns out, mostly bouncing. 34. Somewhere in Colorado, a ski instructor had to rescue a man dangling upside down from a chairlift because his backpack strap got caught. To make matters worse, his phone slipped out mid-dangle, hit record, and caught him yelling, "Tell my wife I'm winning!" The video became a viral classic. When they finally lowered him down, he refused to admit embarrassment, insisting he was testing the emergency response system. Ski Patrol later named the lift after him, unofficially, as the Humility Express. 35. In Alaska, a man tried to ski at night with a headlamp duct taped to his helmet and a flashlight in his mouth. The problem? It was 20 degrees, and he forgot that batteries freeze. Both lights died halfway down. Locals reported seeing a faint silhouette sliding past in total darkness, muttering, "It's fine, I know where I am." He didn't. The rescue team found him an hour later, sitting on his skis, singing to stay warm, surrounded by the kind of quiet only regret can make. When asked if he'd do it again, he said, "Yes, but with glow sticks." 36. There's an annual competition in Norway called Ski to the Pub, and one year an American tourist took the name far too literally. Instead of skiing to the pub, he tried to ski into it, right through the front door. Witnesses described it as less James Bond, more bowling ball. He slid across the floor, took out 3 bar stools, and landed in front of the bartender like he was sliding into home base. Without missing a beat, the bartender poured him a beer and said, "You've arrived." That's customer service and gravity at its finest. 37. And then there's the guy who decided to test if his smartwatch could measure slope speed accurately. It could. What it couldn't do was stop him from discovering that 60 mph feels very different when you're on skis, heading toward a ski school group of horrified children. He managed to avoid them by veering off into a snow fence, leaving behind a man-shaped hole and an impressive data log that ended with "impact detected," calling emergency services. Later, he bragged that his heart rate monitor hit a personal best. The resort renamed that section of the run Cardio Hill in his honor, or possibly as a warning. 38. In Aspen, a professional snowboarder decided to wow the crowd during a charity event by attempting a backflip off the beginner slope's smallest jump. The jump was, generously, about a foot tall. He launched anyway, rotated exactly 0.7 of a flip, and landed like a frozen pancake, flat, stunned, and instantly humbled. The crowd still cheered because charity, but the announcer's voice cracked mid-laugh as he shouted, "Ladies and gentlemen, gravity, undefeated since forever." Later, the snowboarder told reporters, "I was going for humor, not height." Mission accomplished. 39. In Vermont, a skier got bored waiting in line for the lift and decided to save time by climbing the support tower and jumping on as the chairs passed. He timed it perfectly, almost. He caught the lift, swung for a few glorious seconds, and then realized he was hanging by his fingertips while a crowd below started filming. When Ski Patrol stopped the lift, he shouted down, I'm fine. He wasn't. By the time they rescued him, his dignity was hanging lower than his ski poles. That video now plays in the resort's safety orientation under the caption, "Don't innovate, sit down." 40. In Switzerland, an artist staged what he called performance skiing. His concept: paint messages in the snow by dragging colored dye from his backpack while skiing freestyle patterns. It looked poetic for the first 5 minutes, until the dye froze solid, the hose clogged, and the pack exploded mid-turn, turning him into a rainbow snowball of chaos. Skiers down below reported a colorful explosion followed by muffled French swearing. He later titled the piece, "Modern Art Meets Altitude," proving once again that anything can be called art if you survive it. 41. One man in Utah thought he could cut costs by bringing his own chairlift. He tied a long rope to his pickup truck, parked it at the top of a gentle hill, and told his friends to grab on and hold tight. Within 10 seconds, they were tangled, airborne, and being towed sideways like a human snowplow. The truck, overloaded with optimism and bad physics, slid downhill and ended up in a snowbank. The man told police, "We were testing a prototype." The officer replied, "Of what? A lawsuit?" 42. A viral video from Lake Tahoe shows a skier stopping mid-run to take a call on speakerphone. He's calmly talking about synergy and budget optimization while skiing straight into a slow-moving parade of children in neon vests. The last thing you hear before the crash is him saying, "Let's circle back on." Oh no. He later claimed he was multitasking. Technically true, he was skiing, talking, and creating chaos simultaneously. The internet called him the CEO of bad timing. 43. Then there's the snowboarder who brought a flare for a cool selfie effect. He lit it while descending the slope at dusk, creating a glowing red trail of smoke. Beautiful, yes, until he accidentally dropped it, setting off a mini avalanche and sending nearby skiers diving for cover. The video looks like a James Bond chase scene if James Bond were a pyromaniac from Ohio. When the patrol caught him, he tried to argue it was performance art. The officer simply said, "You performed, all right?" 44. A man in Finland decided to film himself eating a sandwich while skiing downhill. The footage is 45 seconds of him saying, "This is going surprisingly before a snow bump launches both him and the sandwich in opposite directions. He later recovered the GoPro and captioned the upload, "Lunch break, 9:10 taste, 0:10 landing." It became Finland's most watched video that week. Apparently, nothing unites humanity like watching a man get body slammed by lunch. 45. In France, a group of influencers decided to recreate a ski ballet video from the 1980s. They synchronized perfectly until someone's Bluetooth speaker cut out, throwing off the rhythm. The next minute looked like a slow-motion riot in matching neon outfits. One guy accidentally spun into the lift line, another slid under a bench, and the camera operator was laughing so hard he fell backward. They still posted it with the caption, "Nailed it." Technically true, they nailed every possible object on the mountain. 46. There's a legendary skier in Wyoming known as Hot Tub Tony. His claim to fame? He tried to ski directly into the outdoor hot tub behind the lodge because it'd be the perfect landing. It was for about half a second. He hit the water so fast it emptied half the tub, soaking everyone within a 10-foot radius. When asked why, he said, "I wanted to combine skiing and spa culture." Tony now has a permanent sign near the lodge. Hot tub closed to all incoming traffic. 47. A man in Colorado decided to train for ski season using a treadmill covered in baby powder. It went as well as you think. Within 3 seconds, he discovered friction, gravity, and humility. He flew backward into a wall, breaking both the treadmill and his spirit. The security footage went viral, mostly because his wife can be heard saying, "I told you to do yoga." He later admitted, "I was just trying to save money." In the end, he bought both a new treadmill and a ski pass. 48. And for our grand finale, the skier who brought his trumpet to serenade the mountains. He played jazz all the way down the slope, somehow managing to keep rhythm while dodging trees. People loved it until a moose wandered out of the woods, apparently insulted by the performance, and chased him halfway to the lodge. The footage shows him skiing for his life while still clutching the trumpet, occasionally blasting random notes in terror. When asked what he learned, he said, "Nature doesn't like improv." So there you have it. 48 shining examples of humanity's determination to turn gravity into slapstick. Which one deserves a gold medal for stupidity? Drop your pick in the comments. Just don't try skiing and typing at the same time.